Okay, so today on The Five, we're taking a look at some of the 5 highlights that will be notable for the economy in 2021 in the country. And of course, the first one is taking a look at the forecast for growth. And it is forecasted the economy to grow at 6.9%. And this is according to the World Bank, which has one of the more optimistic forecasts for economic growth, projecting it at 6.9% growth. If you remember, in the year 2020, they estimated that the economy contracted by up to 1.5%. Now, they're basing this growth on what we hope would be the uninterrupted reopening of schools, which would also be helped by the infections, the COVID-19 infections, staying low, below the 5% infection rate, which we have seen over the last few weeks of December. This would allow many sectors of the economy to continue to reopen fully. One thing that would also boost the economy and this growth would be the COVID-19 vaccine, which we know is set to be rolled out in the country, at least according to the Ministry of Health, next month. That's in a few weeks to come. We know we're going to be inoculating our frontline workers like nurses, doctors, and even teachers. And that would definitely be a boost for the education sector that was hardest hit in the year 2020. Now, the next 2 points I'm going to highlight focus on taxation measures. Now, you know the taxation relief measures lapsed in December 2020 because there's a lot of pressure on the taxman to continue to meet their financial obligations to fund development. Now, we have the digital service tax that takes effect this month, and it focuses on the digital space. And you remember we have previously highlighted this as a fast-growing sector of the economy. Now, it is 1.5% of the gross transaction value on income services that have been provided through a digital marketplace. Now, some of the services that would be affected or would have this 1.5% apply would be streaming and download of digital services and digital content, provision of a digital marketplace, a website, or any other applications that link buyers and sellers. There's things like tickets that are bought for live events. They're payable in installments that are due on the same date as the current installment tax obligations. Now, here's what the folks at PricewaterhouseCoopers gave as their view on this minimum tax. And they said this, and I quote, that it may result in unintended economic effects in respect of businesses, especially where it represents an additional cost to the business rather than a tax on actual income that is earned by businesses, especially in low-margin businesses and new businesses, which, take time to be profitable, particularly in the initial years of business. So this is definitely something that we will see featuring on the economic sector in the country. The fourth thing to look out for this year in the economy is this: the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Program. And this is some good news with respect to taxation in the country. There is an amnesty program launched by the Kenya Revenue Authority. This is it, the Voluntary Tax Disclosure Program. It allows a taxpayer to confidentially disclose any tax liabilities that were previously undisclosed, after which you will be granted relief of penalties and interest that has been accrued. Now, this amnesty program will run for 3 years. That's from this month, January 2021, all the way to December 2023. And it covers tax periods for the last 5 years. So that's from June 2015 to June 2020. Now, don't get it twisted. You will still pay the tax you owe, but you will get a remission on the interest and the penalties. Now, what taxes does it cover? Many. Some, for example, the pay-as-you-earn, payee, the withholding tax, corporate tax, and VAT. Of course, the idea of this is to get more people to pay their taxes. Now, here's another one that is definitely going to define the economic sector in 2021, and that is this one. We have loans to pay, people. The Nairobi-Naivasha SGR loan repayment begins January 2021, this month. And this is definitely going to be a pay point for the taxpayer. How much do we owe? Well, it is 162 billion shillings that we borrowed from China for the Nairobi-Naivasha Railway. Repayments for that fall due this month after a 5-year grace period. The first of 30 installments is due this month for a 14-year repayment period that goes all the way to July 2035. Now, what makes this repayment a pain point for the taxpayers is that the revenue that was to be generated from the passenger and cargo traffic on this line are not enough to meet the operation costs for the railway line. And so the money to repay this loan will come from you, the taxpayer. Remember, this is on top of the repayment of the loan for the Mombasa-Nairobi SGR line, whose second repayment is due around June this year, which increases our repayments to China's Exim Bank from about 31 billion in 2019 to 71.4 billion shillings this year. Add to that the fact that the KRA has not met its tax obligations over the years, but that was definitely more difficult during the pandemic. We're already borrowing more from the World Bank and the IMF, and I just want to remind you that our loans are now more expensive than before since we became a middle-income country. We're not getting concessional loans anymore. And then, of course, you've heard of the talk within the political circles to increase the debt ceiling to 12 trillion shillings. All of this is likely to be borne by you and I, the taxpayer, and may spell some really tough times for this year. Those are the 5 things that we believe here at Business Now will definitely feature on the economic outlook and forecast for the year 2021. That's the 5.